Which class in Lost Ark is the hardest to play? I see this question asked a lot in various places, from different Discord servers to even Reddit. I'd like to try to put this question to rest and answer this right off the rip and just say the class that's the hardest to play isn't any class specifically. It entirely depends on the boss itself and how well you understand the boss mechanics. I know that sounds like a cheap cop-out kind of answer, but it's true, and I would like to take a few moments in this video to explain my reasoning. To start off, let's talk about the skill ceiling of Lost Ark's classes. Naturally, some classes from a purely mechanical standpoint are just more difficult and challenging than some of the other classes. But none of these classes have so much depth that you can't pick it up after spending a few moments in Trixion hitting the training dummy. I would say one of the most difficult classes off the top of my head is Gunslingers, simply because of how many buttons they have. Their mechanics aren't really difficult, but you just have so many different skills to juggle compared to other classes that understanding the cooldowns and tracking those would increase the skill exponentially. However, after spending a certain amount of time on this class, even with all those added buttons, you're still going to be able to build up muscle memory and better kind of track the flow of your major skills, and you're going to understand what, the kind of the ebb and flow of that class is, even with all the buttons. Another class I know that is often perceived as difficult are Soul Fists. Robust Spirit Soul Fist has a very short window to basically fit in all of their damage. It's like an 18-second window where they have to maintain some self buffs within that window itself. And if you get knocked out of your burst window, your damage is kind of neutered. But once again, once you get into that burst window, it's pretty simple to understand how to orchestrate your actual burst combo. The difficulty comes with knowing when to enter your burst window. And once again, that leads me into understanding boss mechanics. Understanding when a boss is safe to attack and get your damage in is a crucial skill to understand. I want to use Vicus Gate 1 here as an example. My main class is the Red Gun Lancer, which means that I'm an entropy class, and in order to maximize my damage, I need to get as many frontal attacks as I possibly can. Ignoring the fact that I can taunt the boss on occasion to force him to face me, there are a few patterns on the purple side which alert me to know that there's going to be a pattern in which I can get the maximum damage off by hitting a frontal attack with either Surge Cannon or my Charge Stinger. For example, when he does this line attack, he will follow it up with a cone in front of him that must be stacked in order to avoid damage. This is perfect for Red Gun Lancer because it guarantees frontal attacks while I'm standing in that safe zone. As a result, this makes Red Gun Lancer very strong on this particular phase of the fight. However, on the flip side, in the blue area, when you're fighting the blue boss, a lot of his attacks are reversed and the safe zones are in the back. This means I will have a very hard time getting my frontal attacks off unless I have enough shield energy to kind of just face tank some mechanics, in which case, Red Gun Lancer can do that, but a little bit tricky, especially if you're on eye level. So in summary, on the purple side of the fight, it really favors frontal attacking classes, and on the blue side of this fight in this gate 1, it really favors the back attackers because, again, all the safe zones are in the back. Most bosses have different tells like this in order to alert players that they can get their damage off shortly. So you just have to kind of watch out for those, those tells, those patterns, and then just prepare yourself to get your burst in. In this last section here, I want to talk about Hitmaster classes versus some positional classes that use Ambush Master or Master Brawler. Because Hitmaster amplifies any attack that doesn't require a positional, this just makes certain classes naturally easier early on in learning a boss. You don't have to understand the patterns as in depth as some other classes, so naturally these classes are just easier. These would be something like Sork. However, that doesn't mean Sork is easy, because if you're playing something like Igniter, you still have to understand how the boss is kind of being played when you can to understand when you can get your full burst in, because missing a Doomsday is going to feel pretty bad. But overall, I would say that classes that are utilizing Ambush Master or Master Brawler are going to have a little bit harder of a time learning a new boss and trying to maximize their damage, because, well, you just have to be more observant and understand when you can get your damage in um, in order just to maximize your damage. But in the grand scheme of things, every class has something that they really just need to be aware of what the boss is doing. So being Hitmaster versus like a positional class isn't, the difficulty in scale is not really, it's pretty negligent. To summarize this whole video, basically every class has a burst combo that you want to familiarize yourself with. Get a feel for how long it takes for your burst to get off, and also try to build up that muscle memory so that you can do it with your eyes closed. Again, most classes are fairly even in the aspect of their burst combos being fairly simple. The real difficulty is just trying to be observant as a player. Don't just stare at your bar and just wait for cooldowns and stuff like that. Just actually look to learn what the boss is doing, understand what comes after he does, maybe a boss does this attack, what comes next. Trying to understand what those patterns are is going to make you a much better player, and it means that there really is no most difficult class. All the classes in Lost Ark have depth to them, but not so much that like it's impossible to pick up some of them because they're just too difficult. But I'd love to hear your guys' take on this. If you think that there is an actual hardest class, I guess if I had to pick, I'd say maybe Robust Spirit Soulfist or Energy Overflow Soulfist. But I really don't think it's that hard. But let me know in the comments what you think. If let me know if I'm wrong. But again, this is just Goober Troy saying thank you for watching. I hope you all have a wonderful day.